I'm Mary Mammoliti, a proud Italian who loves a good pasta. Today we're making two different types. We're making little hats and bow ties, or as they're known in Italy, Orecchiette and Farfalle. But guess what? We're making them gluten-free. I'm so excited. I love the sizzle of butter melting in a pan, the smell of cinnamon while I'm baking. I need to touch food while it's cooking and of course taste it, even if I can't see it very well. To me, cooking should be fun. That's why I've invited chefs from across Canada who feel the same way I do to cook with me, virtually. Welcome to Dish with Mary. Chef Jen Peters is a classically trained chef who has worked at some of the most prestigious restaurants around the world. But 10 years ago, she discovered that she was gluten intolerant, which is inconvenient for a chef, to say the least. Unwilling to forego cooking and eating the foods she loved, she set out to create gluten-free flours. Milling the ingredients by hand, she has now perfected the recipes for a line of gluten-free products known as the Good Flour Company. Chef Jen has shown herself and the culinary world that nothing is impossible. Joining us from British Columbia is Chef Jen Peters. Hi, Jen.
Hi, Mary. How are you doing?
I am fantastic now that we're going to be cooking together. So today we're making pasta, but I want to start off with, we've got a special flour in front of us. So this isn't just any regular all-purpose flour. We've got gluten-free flour.
That is correct. This is the flour that we make at the Good Flour Company. So I'm always milling millet and other grains, so millet and buckwheat and brown rice, so that we can make a blend of flours that will act like, feel like, and give us the texture of the pasta that we want.
So I'm excited. I really want to start. What ingredients do we need?
We have eggs, we have flour, we have olive oil.
So on my end, we've already got our ingredients measured out. As always, you can go to our website at ami.ca/dish-recipes for today's full recipe. Where do we begin? How are we starting?
We're gonna start with cracking our eggs. We're cracking them into a cup. If we do this, then if I get a little tiny piece of shell, it's very likely to stick to my cup. If I get lots of shell, I can pour my eggs back and forth from a cup to a metal bowl or a cup to a cup, and the shell was very, very likely to stick to that vessel.
Oh, I love that tip.
Now that my eggs are cracked and your eggs are cracked, we're gonna pour our flour right on the table. So I'm just using my fingers here to make a well in the center that's gonna be enough for all of those eggs.
Okay.
With my fork in one hand, I have my fork in my right because I'm right-handed, and then my eggs in the other hand, I'm gonna pour them in the center, and then when you get your eggs in there, you're gonna whisk those eggs with your fork as if you're in a mixing bowl.
Okay, and by whisking it, what it's doing, it's actually grabbing the flour from the sides and it's combining it in with those eggs as we're breaking up those eggs, right?
Exactly. Like, it takes a couple of minutes to do it this way. I totally forgot the olive oil, but add it to the eggs right about now and keep pulling in just a little bit more of the flour from the side.
Without disrupting the actual wall of the well.
Without getting eggs on the floor.
Yeah, so now I'm feeling a little more resistance on my fork as I'm mixing it up. I'm at the stage where I'm gonna actually get in there with my hands.
I'm gonna get in with my hands too. Turn it over a couple times, bring it together.
See, you were the smart one. You wore an apron for this. I usually end up wearing half the flour.
With your hand or with a pastry scraper, you wanna bring that flour together. Now we wanna just knead in enough flour, and any way you're kneading is just fine there. So I'm always turning and pushing it through the flour, picking up the flour that is on my table. At this point, you judge it by its texture. So if your hand is sticking when you knead, you can have a little more flour on your table. If your hand is not sticking, get rid of any excess flour because your eggs will be too dry.
This is a workout. I love it. Didn't make it to the gym. Who am I kidding? I don't go to the gym.
I don't go to the gym either because I feel like this is my workout, right? Every time you knead, you're working your upper body like you wouldn't believe sometimes. And actually, you're doing exactly like I'm doing. You probably have one foot in front of the other, and it's like this little rocking chair motion to get the kneading just right. How does your dough feel?
It's got some resistance to it, but it's silky. So it's got like that silky texture.
If you push your thumb into it to make an indentation that's about 1 centimeter deep, is it just becoming sticky or is it really dry?
I just feel that little tackiness to it.
I'm happy with the texture of the dough. So that's now ready for a couple minutes of refrigeration.
I've washed my hands, I've cleaned my work surface, and now I'm ready for the next step. How do we prep our counter space?
Well, we're gonna dust some flour onto it.
Okay, so let's go over to the fridge. I'll grab my dough.
I'll do the same. Does it feel a tiny bit softer?
Oh, it does. A little bit of tackiness to it.
It is a touch more tacky. That's why you're gonna need that flour. Let's divide our dough in half. So I'm gonna use my knife, or you can use your pastry cutter. Half of this will designate for making the next pasta. If the dough will pass from one hand to the other and slide on your table, I call this free floating. You have the right amount of flour.
Okay, we're in business, minus
You're
sliding.
totally in business right there. And now we can begin rolling this half of the dough into a nice thin sheet.
And what I like to do when I roll out my dough is I like to start from the center, roll out, and then go back to the center and roll out. It just gives me that
Exactly.
more control over making it a little more even.
I can feel it up at the top. It's a little thick in my top corner because I always miss that spot.
How thin do we want this?
We want to keep it so it's card paper thickness.
I think we're good. I think we're at card thickness.
Then let's get shaping so we don't lose our time here.
Okay.
We will begin our shaping of our little bow ties. I think the thickness or the wideness of my thumb is a good gauge for me. So
Okay.
I'm gonna decide that's my thickness using a roller cutter. And I'm gonna try and run a parallel line. You may find it's easy to drag your thumb along and kind of follow.
Oh, that's perfect, because on my end, using the bench scraper, I can actually just keep my thumb there, rest the bench scraper right up against it, push down.
We're gonna turn it all into strips. Then we're gonna decide how wide or long do we want our farfalle to be.
Okay.
I'm gonna stick with my thumb as a measurement. It was about my thumb wide and my thumb long. So that gives me a rectangle.
Okay, so always squaring off the ends.
It does make sense for our shape.
I've cut rectangles, so I'm ready to
Okay.
form some of them.
So now we wanna just give them a little tiny pinch in the center. If you pick it up as you're pinching it, that's good, because then it gets that little rounded shape as well. And we know it'll
Right.
hold a little sauce.
So I have enough farfalle on my plate for a single serving. Why don't we move on to the orecchiette?
Let's do that.
Okay, so what's our first step? I've got my dough in front of me, ready to go.
We're gonna wanna shape little balls. Should be the size of a chickpea. And then
Okay.
you wanna make sure you have a little bit of dusting flour on your thumb. I have my little ball of dough in my left hand, and then I'm gonna cup that hand that I have the little ball in, so it just creates that little tiny pocket. And in that pocket, my dough sits and my thumb just goes straight into the center, 3/4 of the way through that ball. And I don't press aggressively at first, and I let it kind of mold around my finger, and then I begin to move my thumb forward and back, and then it'll loosen my thumb from the dough. So I end up with this little shell shape or ear shape.
With the perfect ridges on the outside.
Yeah, exactly. And then you just repeat.
This is something definitely you do with a friend,
Yes.
chat them up,
Yeah.
have a conversation.
And fill up the tray in the center of the table.
Actually, when I went to Italy, there were ladies just sitting outside their front door with a bowl and just making pasta.
Just shaping.
I learned a lot about her neighbor Giuseppina.
As you do.
Why do you like orecchiette so much?
Oh, I like them because they're these little shells and they pick up a little sauce with every bite. And you can have kind of a chunky sauce and it'll sit there in the shell. And I like the irregularity of it.
Let's continue to make our orecchiette. We're gonna put our pot on with some water to boil, and when we come back, we're gonna get to dish with Chef Jen. Stay tuned. Dish with Mary will return. We now return to Dish with Mary. Welcome back. Now, before we put the finishing touches on our pasta, we're gonna dish with Chef Jen. Jen, what inspired you to become a chef?
Well, I grew up cooking. My dad was teaching me to make pancakes, and I was like so small I had to stand on the chair to see the pancakes. He's like, how do you know when you can turn this over? Like when the bubbles stay open. He's like, okay, so you can turn this one over. Or like there are pictures of me under the age of 5 cracking eggs for my mom, and pictures of me with like a bag of nuts and a rolling pin breaking the nuts for her recipes. So I was underfoot in the kitchen and baking from a very young age. Of course, I would have said to you in high school that I was going to be a graphic designer, but as soon as high school was over, I just geared right into wanting to be a chef. I went to culinary school at VCC, and the rest is, well, cooking every day since.
I love that. It reminds me of when I was always in the kitchen with my mom. Now, and then my sister took over, and then my dad, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. The kitchen's a happy place.
Definitely is. We made a gluten-free pasta today. Why did you choose to make this pasta? And we used your flour. Why did you decide to make this flour?
I love to eat pasta. That's the truth, and that's the most basic answer. But if you can't eat gluten, you still want to eat good food. I would say about 12 years ago, I was having some health issues. And I'd had some ongoing stomach issues and things like that. And I went to the naturopath, and she said to me, "This looks like you have an allergy to either dairy or gluten." And I think I said to her, "I'm a chef, I can't be allergic to things." She's like, "Your choice of careers doesn't mean anything. If you can't digest it, you can't." Till she said, "Let's just rule it out. For 3 weeks, I want you to try going without gluten." And 3 days in, when I realized that gluten was the real issue for me, I simply started to eat potatoes and rice, and there's many good things you can eat, but after a while you start to crave what you cannot have, which is the pasta.
Right.
Which is the pizza and the scones and the cake. And so I had to start to teach myself how to bake gluten-free because you want those things in your life.
So you developed this flour. What was that process like?
If you ask my husband, he will tell you that my house turned into a lab because I bought every gluten-free product I could find. I brought it home and I began to test it in different recipes. And there was a lot of trial and failure. So I joke that the all-purpose is my baby because it took 9 months. After 9 months of having every gluten-free flour, grain, or starch in my house, I had whittled it down to these are the ones that taste very nice, balanced, they give me good texture, they give me good flavor, and they have nutritional value. It's not just pure starch. And I was so happy at the end because you could take the flour mix you had made and bake a cake, make a cookie. And the process became simpler. And I was very happy with that.
And why did you decide to share this with everyone and create your product?
Well, in the beginning, I just wanted to be able to bake because we were thinking of opening a cafe. But then someone was like, "Oh, you made this, it's really nice. You know, how can I bake with it at home?" And if you get asked that enough, you're like, actually, the business is to provide for people. And I just wanted to give people the opportunity to get back into their kitchens and not feel this hassle.
So how do you feel now that it's been almost a decade of living gluten-free?
Physically, I feel great. I have the option now to make pizza, to make pasta. And so I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything anymore. And when I make a cake, I can bring it to people's house and they don't know it's gluten-free. And that's kind of fun for me because then it's not, that's for people with an allergy table. We'll put that over there and nobody else wants any. If you bring a cake to someone's house, you want to share it and you want to enjoy it with them. So I don't feel like I'm stuck on the outside of the party anymore.
Okay, so what advice would you give someone who's starting off transitioning to a gluten-free lifestyle?
Be careful, but it's going to get easier. Because you feel like you've lost so much of your repertoire, so much of the basics, but it gets easier. It just does, because as you are like, okay, I can now go here and buy this product, or I can make this product, and also get online and find a group to chat with that has some solutions for you, because you're going to find it a lot easier because people have been doing this for a while. So there are many different products out there that, like, soy sauce has gluten in it. Most Worcestershire sauce has gluten in it. So you want to be really careful about those things. You have to find a gluten-free one.
Okay.
And little by little, you will get back into your life all the foods that you're accustomed to eating or that you want to be still eating. So
thanks so much, Jen. That was great advice. Well, I've really enjoyed talking and cooking with you, but we're not done yet. When we come back, we're going to put together the rest of our pasta dish, so stay with us. Dish with Mary will return. You're watching Dish with Mary. Welcome back. We've brought back our orecchiette, and in front of us are the ingredients for our pasta sauce. Jen, what's our first step?
Step one, we are going to take our onions chopped and put them in our pot. The next thing I'm going to add actually is going to be the chili flakes.
Okay.
And I'm not shy with chili flakes, so I'm going for a whole teaspoon here.
Oh yeah, I love a little heat.
Dry oregano, almost the same amount.
Oh, I love the dry oregano.
And then let's go for our capers next. Next, we can add our olives, put in a fair amount so that it's in proportion with the onion. And then I go for the black pepper here. And you have fennel on your table.
I do. It reminds me of the holidays, family. We always had fresh fennel.
I love fennel and I will use it in everything. Again, some people find it strong, so add at will as much or as little as you like.
Right.
And that makes this sauce your own instantly.
Right.
What is next for us is to add our olive oil.
Oh, I love olive oil. Have I mentioned that I love everything about this already? It's some of my favorite ingredients in one pan.
And at this point, you can actually stir. So you know you have enough olive oil because when you stir it around, your olive oil has begun to coat your onions. And then this is ready to go on our stove.
Okay, I've just turned mine and I've put it on to simmer.
Perfect. I'm doing the same thing here.
Okay. Now, my sauce is already starting to bubble. And it's nice and fragrant from the olives, from the capers. It's so good already. Do we have to keep the ingredients moving in the pan or can we just let it simmer here?
As long as it's not rapidly bubbling, you're good. You can just leave it low and the flavor is just gonna get more intense.
Okay, so when do we add in our garlic?
If your onions have simmered and they've begun to soften and you can smell olives and everything, then you're ready. So mine is going in the pot because my onions and everything are smelling delicious. Now we can pretty much ignore that.
So now it's time to grate our tomatoes.
Yes.
I've got my plate, 2 tomatoes, I've got my box grater.
I've cut my tomatoes in half because they're quite large. And I'm doing this on the cheese grater on the largest side. And I have it on a plate so we can catch the juice as well as the fleshy part of the tomato.
Oh, you can really smell the freshness in this tomato
Yes.
right now.
If you don't have a grater handy, you can obviously dice, but it's nice to do it this way for the texture. And it's nice because you don't have to pick up a knife. It takes a lot of effort to grate through the skin, so it does protect your hand a little as you're grating.
And it really doesn't take much force to do this.
No,
So why didn't we add the tomatoes right with all the other ingredients? Why are we waiting to add them in now?
I wanted to have something moist, something with moisture content to add after the onions have softened and cooked. If you add it all at once, it's kind of like you're boiling those onions instead of actually heating them in the fat, and the fat will extract flavor from your chilies and all your herbs and the pepper and the fennel.
Next.
Next, I'm adding the pulp of the tomato as well as the juice.
Love it, everything goes in.
When you've added the tomato, you'll notice that it turns into a sauce almost immediately. The tomato is gonna marry with the olive oil and everything just becomes all one.
So once you hear that boil, turn it down and just let it sit here and simmer for a couple minutes. So I noticed we haven't added any salt into this dish.
The thing that's bringing salt to this dish and umami to this dish is all those olives and capers because they have their own seasoning. We're almost ready for our orecchiette.
Now I've gone ahead and I've pre-boiled my water.
Let's season our water. We don't want to season before the water boils because we don't want to pit the pot. If the salt settles to the bottom and your water is not boiling, then remember to stir it so you can keep your pots longer.
So we're gonna generously.
Yes, salty like the sea.
Okay, so I've got my orecchiette. I'm gonna just pour them right into the hot water. Do you want the orecchiette a little al dente?
You're not gonna get a full bite from a fresh pasta, but you don't want mushy pasta. So we're at a minute now, so it's time to check your pasta. Is yours floating?
Some are floating. I can feel them hitting the top of my spoon.
And that's the sign that they're cooked.
Now I'm noticing with the sauce that it's thickened up quite nicely.
We're gonna put the pasta in and then decide. If we need to loosen it once the pasta goes in, we'll steal a little bit of our pasta pot water because then it will season the
Magic
sauce.
ingredient.
And the starchiness of the sauce, the water will give
Yeah.
our sauce a little shine, and it is everybody's secret trick. So I'm happy with my orecchiette texture, so I'm gonna take it from the water and straight into my pot of sauce.
Okay, I've turned off my heat. I'm gonna grab a slotted spoon
Perfect.
and just scoop them up and right into the sauce.
Exactly.
I'm gonna give mine a stir. I went a little crazy with the orecchiette and I put in tons of them.
The consistency of my sauce, it's a little runny, and I'm happy with that. I don't need to add pasta water.
Now I'm just gonna spoon a little bit.
Yeah,
Are we ready to plate?
we are. I'm gonna go straight into the bowl.
And I've got some fresh basil here that I'd love to add to this.
The other fresh herb that's great with this could be a fresh Italian, like flat leaf parsley.
I have Parmigiano Reggiano. I have a brick of it, and I have a hand grater.
The nice thing about this grater is it's gonna use a little cheese, but give you tons of cheese aroma. My pasta's a little loose. If I stir my cheese in, it'll start to thicken it up like as for risotto. And then I could top it with more if I wanted to.
So all that's left, we're ready to taste.
I think we're ready.
Awesome, I'm gonna get myself a fork.
Oh, I've got myself a spoon. But either
Yes. I know, what was I thinking? I wasn't, clearly.
or. I need a bigger spoon. But I managed to get 2 orecchiettas and a whole olive on here, so I think I'm doing pretty good.
Okay. Oh my gosh, this is so good.
Delicious. Absolutely delicious.
And what I love about it is just, it's quick, it's simple, but it's packed full of flavor. The pasta, although it's gluten-free, you cannot tell the difference. It has the same texture to it as a regular floured pasta. Silky, it's smooth, it's got a little bit of bite to it. It's delicious.
I'm glad you enjoy it. I love to shape it this way. I mean, I love to make pasta any shape, actually. But this one, it just lends itself to this kind of a rustic style sauce that is like pieces of salty and pieces of other things. And I'm glad we had fun and made it.
Thank you so much for sharing this recipe with us. I had so much fun and I've learned how to make orecchiette.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
You can find our full recipe at ami.ca/dish-recipes. We'll see you next time. I'm Mary Mammoliti. Host Mary Mammoliti. Executive producer Michelle Dudas. Series producer Anna Padra-Barrick. Associate producer and editor Miriam Bakhtiar. Director of photography Toronto Brian Roy. Camera assistant Toronto Gavin Lee. Sound recordist Toronto Mike Bonson. Vancouver production crew supplied by Blink Studios. Food stylist Joyce Singh. Vancouver videographer Sergio Vera Barahona. Media accessibility specialist Ron Rickford. Audio post Mike Monson. Graphics Mike Smith. President and CEO David Arrington. Copyright 2022 Accessible Media Inc.